Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going, and as I like to point out each and every day, it expands our base. This morning, the Supreme Court is front and center. The term is ending, and the Supreme Court is going to render a number of critical decisions. I want to speak about ethics this morning. I want to speak about the ethics of the Supreme Court. The justices have now disclosed, they did it on Friday, all of the perks they've received, including paid travel, sizable book deals, and, well, even tickets. I mean, this is unbelievable. The whole point of the United States Supreme Court was that the people who serve on the court, the 9 individuals, men and women, were to be above the fray. They were not to be involved in politics. They were not to make additional money. They were to serve with highest honor and distinction on the United States Supreme Court. Now, I understand the need for money, believe me, but can you believe the stories being circulated now? That Clarence Thomas revealed that he had received from Harlan Crow, one of the leading Republican contributors, 6-figure payments in terms of what he was receiving for vacation time. We have books being written, and again, 6 figures being involved. I want you to understand something. In the next few weeks, the United States Supreme Court is going to render great decisions, including the question of presidential immunity, blanket immunity, which Donald Trump is requesting. They are going to issue issues dealing with abortion. They are going to issue statements, judgments on critical issues involving all Americans. And we have a right to know that these justices of the United States Supreme Court are above politics, and yes, above being bribed. I want you to think for a minute about ethics. Now, we understand that the House of Representatives makes its own ethical rules. The Senate makes its own ethical rules. The Supreme Court must make its own ethical rules. And I have to tell you, whether you're a liberal or a conservative, this is ridiculous. Neil Gorsuch, a conservative, and Sonia Sotomayor reported royalty income of, well, $250,000 and nearly $90,000 respectively. This must stop. I believe very sincerely that if we are going to view the Supreme Court as a neutral body making judgments, that they can't be accepting money from outside sources. I've talked in the past about Abe Fortas, one of the ablest justices and one of the greatest legal minds ever to serve on the Supreme Court. He received $10,000 and then an additional $10,000 for a total of $20,000 from the Lewis Wolfson Foundation. He didn't break any rules, but it was the appearance of impropriety, the appearance that something was wrong, that caused him to leave the court. His colleagues came to him and said, enough is enough. Now look, isn't it time for the Supreme Court to say to all of the members, liberals and conservatives, enough is enough? An ethical standard has to be imposed. Now that raises another question. Even if a standard were imposed, what does it mean in terms of the rulings that are going to come down now? We know that Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito are severely compromised. Their political stands, and yes, the stands of their wives, make a critical difference for all of us in how we view the Supreme Court. So here's my question. What will the Supreme Court do to restore confidence? What will the Supreme Court do to establish once and for all that they really are blindfolded when it comes to these kinds of issues? I don't begrudge anybody making money, But when you serve on the United States Supreme Court, theoretically, you live in a cloister. You're above the question of money. You are paid a salary. You do your job. You don't interfere in politics. And your families should not interfere in politics. That is your wives, and maybe even your children. There is a certain dignity about the Supreme Court of the United States, something that is special. And the fact that we now face a situation where in the next few weeks, the Supreme Court will render major decisions, and all of those decisions may well be tainted by where they have received additional funds from over the course of the last several years. And as for vacations, well, the fact that Harlan Crow can subsidize vacations for Clarence Thomas, can subsidize a variety of aspects of his life and get away with it is just plain wrong. That's all I can say. So here's the question. Is there a way for the Supreme Court to impose upon itself strict rules? And the answer is yes, they can. Will they? It appears not. What worries me is that when these major decisions come down in the next few weeks, decisions that we are going to talk about here on Around the Political World with John Rothman, will we be able to say that those decisions were untainted, that those decisions really represented the best of American justice? We accepted in Bush v. Gore a split decision by the court that put George W. Bush in the White House. A lot of us were upset about it, but we abided by Al Gore's statement that the Supreme Court is the supreme law of the land. Many of us didn't agree with Mr. Gore when he did that, but all of us understood there had to be a final arbiter. There had to be a point where we accepted what the Supreme Court said. I hope, with all my heart, that the Supreme Court rises to the occasion. If they don't, the future of American justice and our faith in American justice will be sorely tested. And that, my friends, in an election year when democracy is on the ballot, that would not be a good thing. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Around the Political World. Make sure to follow along and let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand. I want to point out that you can interact with me on Facebook and on LinkedIn. And my special appreciation to the wonderful producer of this podcast, Gogo Zoger. She makes sure we're posted every single day. And Gogo, just for the record, were you to make a judgment, I trust you. This is John Rothman. See you tomorrow, right here on Around the Political World with John Rothman.